Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, political fighters. Welcome to the July 10th, 2026 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Henry's got the lines open. You can find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com and follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and all of our other great shows that we say every day. And make sure that during the evenings, you are checking out the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show. That's right. We do that here. And our weekends are always full of great content. So make sure you're plugging in and always make your way over to heartlandsignal.com because of the great articles there. J.D. Vance is in Milwaukee. He's such a goof, and he's so incompetent, and he's so no, JD, sorry. We're if you decide to run and you're the nominee, we're going to beat you. The only way you will be able to win if you run, or Marco, is if you all cheat, because you guys do not do good in your jobs, and we're going to paper you with that. Speaking of that, so make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Good couple posts there, and some questions around Mitch McConnell's health. I'm not going to drag on that. Just however he is health-wise, and there's some questions that, like I said, over at Heartland regarding this. I don't want anybody to suffer. I can't stand him politically and the things that he's done. But, bless you. I'll leave it there. Okay. On today's show, let's get to that because I've got a little something unique I'm doing with today's question of the day. And on today's show, Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi of Virginia will be with us in the 6:30 hour. So that's right around the corner. And then our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast will be here, and we'll be talking about some things she's been working on, both the podcast and some articles she's been writing, and her Substack is always on point. And then in the 7:30 hour, Amy McDonald, who is the host of the podcast and founder of the podcast, The Foolish Optimist, she'll be with us. So looking forward to our team, our folks, our guests, all of that today. And so with regard to our question of the day, I want to kind of get to this because it's going to take me a little bit to get it set up in terms of the information. The question of the day is, which of these voting amendments affected your life or those in your family? Now you're gonna say, well, which ones are you talking about? So I'm going to read them to you, but I got to get this to Mike real quickly, and then we'll be off to the races. Okay. So there are a number of voting rights amendments that have there's a number of amendments that have taken place over time, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information to run on when I say or ask the question. 8 voting moments that changed the course of U.S. history. The first step toward equal representation is the 15th Amendment. Okay, and it gave immediate gains to African-American citizens in terms of political representation. So the 15th Amendment. Second one is the 19th Amendment. This is a victory for the suffragettes, and obviously giving women the right to vote, granting all women the right to vote. Number 3 would be 1948, the Native American voting rights that took place in Arizona and in New Mexico. That's number 3, 1948, Native American voting rights. And then prior to the 24th Amendment, some places placed a tax on voting in federal elections. And so that changed with the 24th Amendment. And that by many people's language would be known as "no one is too poor to vote." So what that did is it changed. It said that that poll taxes were unconstitutional, and voting no longer a luxury, but all a right for all men and women over the age of 21. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, which is the one that we've been talking a lot about the last, really the last couple of years, but certainly in the last, I'd say since the beginning of this year with the attacks on the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And then the old enough to fight, old enough to vote, youth voting rights that resulted in the 26th Amendment. And then the next big one was "Su vota e su voz," also translated poorly by me as "your vote is your voice," and that is the effort and the work that impacted the growth of the Latino vote from, at the time in the early 70s, from 2.1 million to over 15.5 million today. And then the Voting Rights Act that impacted the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that ensured it ensured voting rights and access to voting locations for anyone that had a disability, and it eliminated barriers that made it more difficult for folks who may have a disability to vote. In many cases, a disability was one of mobility or ambulatory means. So let me know if any of those you have a direct thought or comment about them, whether it be the 15th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, old enough to vote, old enough to fight. There's probably a number of you who maybe have served during the critical times of Vietnam, that was a big part of your life. If you are of our Latina and Latino community, and how the impact of Su voto e su voz impacted you, the American Disabilities Act, and how that impacted you when it comes to voting, or someone that you know, someone in your family. So it's a question with a couple of different pieces to it. And if any of those, and if you need me to kind of list them off again, just send a text and say, read them again, or give us a call and say, can you read them again? But I'm just curious where you guys land in that space when it comes to voting. Which of these amendments affected your life directly, or someone that is in your family where they may have been affected by one of those changes, one of those amendments of the Constitution. So let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, 1520 AM and 103.5 FM for Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. By the way, you can leave your comments about voting on our Facebook page. You can give us a call here today. We'll be taking your calls. Karen and I will be taking your calls. Or you can send me a text here at 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. This is Choose Views if you're just tuning in, and I'm Richard Chu. A couple of quick Choose Views news items, as is the norm, here on July 10th, 2026. Google search, that particular search, breaks a major record thanks to the World Cup. It's broken the internet, as some say, or Google search at least. The search engine saw a record number of queries per second, I should say, right after the winning goal on Tuesday's knockout round between Argentina and Egypt, according to a spokesman. The fans proved curious, too, about individual players, particularly Argentine star Lionel Messi, asking Google search if this is his last World Cup. How about that? Skilled labor shortage challenges are putting some heat on the data center builders. They're seeing their growth potentially limited by a shortage of skilled labor, including electricians and site supervisors, according to Bloomberg. While some downplay the issue, others have been forced to decline projects or recruit workers away from smaller firms to maintain adequate staffing. The slowdown in growth does not reflect any weakening of the demand for data centers, one executive said. There's plenty more work we could take if we could possibly do it. But obviously, this is Richard speaking, you need the staff, you need the people to be able to do it. So start training people in that space. I don't know, it's pretty simple to me. Home sales are sliding according to prices that are impacting would-be buyers. Existing home sales declined 2.4% in June, surprising some analysts that released some data yesterday from the National Association of Realtors. Housing inventory was relatively low, driving up prices, with the median price of an existing home selling for a record-breaking $440,000. The Northeast was the only region where home sales didn't decline. The chief economist, Lawrence Yun, at the NAR expressed optimism about the coming months, telling CNBC job gains, more than 500,000 since the beginning of the year, will continue to provide support for the housing market. The Paramount-Warner deal is facing some hurdles. The U.S. Justice Department signed off on the Paramount Skydance's $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery last month, but the mega merger still faces hurdles. California, New York, and other states could file suit seeking to stop the deal as soon as next week, according to sources at Reuters. Additionally, Oregon's Attorney General filed a motion on Tuesday of this week to delay closure of the acquisition for 60 days, meaning they want to pause the deal for that period of time. So we'll keep you posted. And last but not least, a little bright story. Jalen Brunson's NBA Finals jersey fetched over $1 million. During the finals, NBA Finals, it sold for a little over $1 million at Sotheby's auction. Brunson, the Finals MVP, wore the jersey during Game 1's victory over the San Antonio Spurs. The auction house's head of modern collectibles, Bram Wachter, told Bloomberg that interest in the multiple finals items were explosive. The record, of course, you can imagine whose jersey probably has fetched the highest at auction. That would be none other than Michael Jordan, his 1998 finals jersey, which sold for $10 million in 2022. So the debate about who's the GOAT is always going to be the debate, but I guess that one's settled there in terms of whose jersey. So a little bit of smile for Jalen Brunson's excellence during the NBA Finals. Kudos to him and all that participate in that part of the business of auctioning off jerseys. So a couple of quick things that are happening here with Heartland Signal. If you haven't already, you can follow Heartland Signal on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and at Heartland Signal, one word. Be sure to check heartlandsignal.com for daily updates. While you're there, check out Heartland Signal's free newsletter. Yeah, it's free, y'all. Each week, Heartland Signal's senior political analyst, Aaron Kleinman, delivers Radio Free America, highlighting stories that matter in state politics but aren't getting enough attention. Subscribe today at heartlandsignal.com/newsletters. And then today, live, local, and progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls for the first half of the show. Then talking to Ray Suarez, broadcast journalist and author of We Are Home. Mark Turcott, Illinois Poet Laureate and distinguished writer in residence at DePaul University. That's live, local, and progressive weekdays, 2 to 5 here on WCPT, AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty will be joined by Cook County Circuit Court Judge Jill Rose Quinn, Merrill Miller, market manager at the Jefferson Park Sunday Market, Jen Schrader, workplace advocate for professionals over 45 and founder of The Obsolete, Martha Conway, award-winning author and writing instructor at Stanford's Writing Certificate Program. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And then tomorrow, a Saturday, it's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. We'll be talking to Peter Gleek, water and science, climate scientist, Illinois Congressman Sean Casten, Alex Aronson, I should say, co-founder and executive director of Court of Accountability. It's the Democracy Stupid, Saturdays 1 to 4 here on WCPT. Next week, we're going to be busy. I'll let you know a little bit more about that as we go along the show today. But there you go. That's what's happening today and tomorrow with Edwin's show. And make sure you're catching all of our shows over the course of the weekend. That includes out Chicago, the family meeting, all the rest. So tune in, like, share, all that good stuff. Let's see what folks are saying in terms of our question of the day. Let's see if anybody's got any interesting comments. No, not about that. All right. So I had the opportunity yesterday to be on Cliff Schecter's, who's been on our show, and you guys know he's Blue Amp Media, to be on his show, his show on Substack yesterday afternoon. And along with former Republican, now Democrat, Joe Walsh, who's been on my show and here on WCPT a few times. And the conversation was interesting in the sense that we talked a lot about what's happening in Maine, and we talked a lot about what's happening with the election in Michigan, and meaning the Senate race that's happening in Michigan. And the thing that was a question that came about is, what are the concerns? What's my biggest concern right now, between now and the midterm election day? And candidly, I have two of them, but we only got to pick one. And it is the concern around Democrats being focused enough and staying energized enough to get across the finish line. In other words, are Democrats going to be energized and angry enough, and I mean the leadership as well as us as regular everyday voters and voices, to stay focused to get us across the finish line? And so that led me to thinking about some other things that, are on my mind kind of all the time. And that's, how do we make sure that we are aggressive when it comes to conversations around these upcoming elections? And let me just share this. Graham Plattner's situation is one that has caused us a lot of angst. Are we here or here? Because it's showing here. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. It doesn't look like it, but I'll trust you. The Graham Plattner situation is one that clearly is bad. There's no question about it or getting around it. But the thing that I think we have to remember is this, and this is where I go back to our focus. The Republicans on a federal level are the ones that are the problem. As much as Graham Plattner's issues are his issues, or any other of our Democratic candidates have had something happen that's created a problem with their candidacy or their race, the thing that is clear to me that we cannot forget is that in the state of Maine, the problem isn't Graham Plattner. The problem from a politician standpoint is Susan Collins. Susan Collins has been in office there for a number of years. Now, I know that the citizens and the voters of Maine are the ones that keep voting her back in, but at the end of the day, and I said this the other day, and it'll be said again, Susan Collins is the person that's caused more harm to women in the state of Maine in terms of voting rights, the SAVE Act. She's behind that. She's the one that had the opportunity to shut down Brett Kavanaugh in many ways. And now he's on the Supreme Court making decisions about what happens in so many people's lives, whether it be a woman's right to choose, women's health care, the overall health care of the nation in terms of Medicare and Medicaid, voting with his conservative majority to extend the powers of the presidency. I mean, all these things are part of what Republicans have been at the tip of the spear in allowing to happen by standing by, or to actually being one to vote for them. So we can be upset about and disappointed about the situation in Maine, but I think we really have to get refocused very quickly. And it's a refocus for the entire country of progressive liberal Democrats. It's not just a refocusing for Maine. Yes, they are the state that has the voters that are going to make the decisions on who is their Democratic nominee going forward. But we as a country have to maintain this thought process. The troubles, the challenges, the issues that we're having right now as a country on a federal level and on a state level are in the hands of Republicans. And I'm going to cite you an example that will make this very, very clear. Our first guest this morning that we'll have on in a few minutes is a lieutenant governor, newly elected, of the great state of Virginia, one of my favorite places to be. And she will tell you that they were headed down a very, very bad path with the former governor and the former lieutenant governor. They were headed, and the state legislature, the changes that had to be made there, that was on a state level, and that's going to impact all of us throughout the country, whether you believe it or not. I'm sure she'll share that with you in a little bit. But it's the Republican leadership in the state legislature that caused the problems for the state, not the Democrats. The Democrats have now taken over. We have a new governor and a new lieutenant governor. And this is true in all over the country. So we have to keep mobilizing the base. I believe we have to keep working really hard to mobilize the base and making sure that we are encouraging our elected officials to letting them know that we've got their back so that they can go into these meetings, they can go into these hearings, they can do all of the things that they need to do because we've got their back. And in return for that, they've got to do the work that we have their back for. So mobilizing the base is critically important. But we also have to make sure that we define the opposition and we let the opposition know that this is on you. And in this case, they are not our colleagues. They are the opposition because they're doing things that are negative for the country and have created this larger divide than we may have already had. And they are standing by and allowing the federal government, the federal Trump administration, to do whatever they want to do. That's ultimately harming more people. Gas prices, tariffs, medical, the subsidies, the list goes on. And I know I'm going to miss something. The Epstein files, all of these things are in the hands of Republicans, federal and state. We as progressive liberal Democrats have to keep, as I said yesterday on the podcast with the guys, we have to keep tagging Republicans with that. And we have to keep reminding them Susan Collins is the one that's got to go. And there are many others throughout the country, Republicans, that are standing by and allowing this administration to do what it's doing. So I just wanted to leave you with that. That's what I'm calling that my case for going hard on Republicans right now. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Ghazala Hashmi. Looking forward to that conversation, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. I'm Richard Chu, if you're just tuning into the show. Last fall, we had, we'll call the off-year elections or the special elections or the midterm elections, however you want to refer to them. But one of the big victories was in the state of Virginia, the governor's race and, of course, the lieutenant governor's race. And shortly after that, we had the opportunity to talk with the newly elected lieutenant governor of Virginia, Ghazala Hashmi. And this morning, we have that luxury and privilege again to be speaking with the lieutenant governor. Good morning, Madam Lieutenant Governor, and welcome back to Choose Views.
Good morning.
Can I get you to mute your speakers?
Okay. We're working on it. All right, I'll keep talking. We're working on a couple of quick little things here with how our technology is. So, Lieutenant Governor, if you are still there, just hang with us for a bit. We're good. We should be good to go now.
Sounds good.
All right, there. See, you sound good. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. You've done a bunch of broadcasts, so you know how sometimes technology decides it wants to have a mind of its own. But it's so great to have you back, and it's been a short period of time, but in that short period of time, you and Governor have gotten so much done. And right out of the gate, you both said we have an obligation to act now on the things that we campaigned on. How have things been in the state these last 7-8 months?
You're right. We got to work right away, and it's been a very, very busy time. We had a very productive and strong legislative session that concluded mid-March. And out of that legislation, we came away with some important bills that have already begun to impact Virginians. You know, we passed historic legislation such as paid sick leave and paid family and medical leave. We've raised the minimum wage. We are addressing the crisis in healthcare that has been caused by that big, ugly bill. And we got to work for working families. We have provided increased opportunities for access and affordability to childcare. These are real impacts that are going to have immediate effects on the lives of so many Virginians. And it's really important that we share the good work that we've been able to accomplish in just a few months' time.
Yeah, and that right there, that part, share the good work, is so important, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, is because we want to let folks know what is happening, not just in the state of Virginia, but so many other states. As I said, leading into the segment with you, when Democrats are in control, if you will, or in leadership roles, particularly on a state level, things get done. It's amazing, but it shouldn't be, but it's amazing. Michigan's a great example. Right here in Illinois, when we are, in those top 3 seats, governor, lieutenant governor, AG, secretary of state, and then we have at least one, if not both, of the chambers of the legislature. We continue to get things done. Are you seeing and having connections and conversations with other lieutenant governors and or governors about what they're doing that's successful in their states?
Absolutely. You know, it's ironic that you ask. Next week, our Democratic lieutenant governors are going to be gathering for a policy summit in Chicago. So I'll be in your backyard, and that's exactly what we do: is have these conversations to compare notes about what's working and working well in other states under Democratic leadership, and we have the opportunity to continue to build policies. Look, with the dismantling of the federal government that we are seeing tragically happen right in front of our eyes, we know that the consequences are that state government and state leadership has the fundamental responsibility to pick up a lot of those pieces. And where we have the states that are led by Democrats, we are seeing a response to the chaos that's being created in Washington. We're seeing real results in being able to address healthcare concerns, education, infrastructure issues, and that's exactly what we're focused on as Democratic leaders now.
So with regard, and yes, next week you guys are going to be here, so I gotta find my way to where you all will be. Hopefully, I'll have a chance to at least wave across the room. But there's a I guess the question is how voters are feeling right now, because on one side of that conversation, so many great candidates like you ran for office, you won, and like you said, let's just get to work. You've gotten to work, you've delivered, you're making it public so that people know what you've gotten done. Have you, or what kind of interaction and feedback have you gotten from voters about the successes that you and the governor have had in these short 7 or 8 months?
It's really important that we keep talking to our communities, all of our various constituencies. And to that effect, I continue to travel across Virginia and make sure that we are having those necessary conversations. We begin to address these very large challenges, but so many of our families are really hurting these days. The rising cost of groceries, of critical medications, the rising cost at our fuel pumps, jobs. All of these are being felt by families everywhere. And so I've made it a point to travel across Virginia. We've actually established an initiative called Virginia's Voices, where we're not just listening, but we are pulling together groups of dedicated leaders, community, and organizational advocates that are able to help us determine what some real solutions are. How do we respond to the situation of our families? How do we translate what we hear into meaningful policy as well as budget decisions? And so being in front of people is so critically important. You can't stay in one place and continue to be an effective leader.
Yeah, and that's I think what so many people who are running have said has been important, and that they have been they know that the voters right there in the community are telling them what to do and how to do it, essentially. Not the consultants, but the people that are right there in the community. And that by listening to what they're saying, this is what we need, the most effective path is to go down that path that they said. This is going to work. This is what we want you to do. And it sounds like you and many other, not only lieutenant governors, but governors are seeing that in right up close and personal.
Absolutely. And I'm just, really excited by what the Spanberger administration is doing. One thing that this administration is very consciously and deliberately doing is talking about intersectionality. Too often, government works in silos. People who are working on issues of commerce focus only on commerce. People who are focused on housing do only housing. But our conversation is about those intersectionalities. How do all of these issues impact each other? How does housing or lack of affordable housing affect the healthcare outcomes for families? How does the lack of affordable housing disrupt education and education outcomes for students who are particularly disadvantaged? It's that perspective of looking at the whole of government, I think, that brings about meaningful results. And I'm so glad that we're focused on doing that here in Virginia.
Another part of your leadership team, as I'll call it, is your Attorney General, Jay Jones. And he, like our Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, have really been, I guess I'll call, they've been kind of a firewall in protecting the citizens from the horrible work from the administration and certainly from ICE. Talk a little bit about him being part of the team and the hard work that he's been putting in.
I am really so happy that we have an attorney general that's focused on protecting Virginians rather than doing the toady work of Donald Trump, and being able to stand up to the egregious violations that we see coming out of the administration in Washington is critically important. And that's really, again, where state level leadership matters. It's these coalitions that we are able to build across states, whether it's our attorneys general or our governors, lieutenant governors. We have the capacity to build firewalls and to really challenge through the legal system the illegal actions that we see coming out of the White House. And those examples of violations of civil rights of individuals and due process. We have a complicated immigration system, but to be going after innocent people, women and children, disrupting families, that is not how we do things in America. Making sure that we are a system of laws, that we adhere to our constitutional values, all of that is essential. And we have an attorney general who's ready to fight for Virginians and not for Donald Trump.
And the difference in that is, if we look at what just took place with this awful shooting of Lorenzo Salgado in Texas, and by ICE, the Attorney General and leadership in Texas is waffling on this. And that's the difference between having, in my opinion, and I mean, you know this as a practitioner, folks that lean into making sure that the citizens of the state are taken care of, irrespective of their party or frankly their immigration status, but to lean in and make sure that the people that are responsible did the right thing. And that's what I'm so proud of with our attorneys generals that happen to be Democrats throughout the country. I know you've probably looked at this as well.
Absolutely. Yes. The law is not partisan. It's not determined by D's and R's. It is really meant to be something that is steady, constant, and equitable for all citizens. And we have the capacity to make our legal system more equitable. That's the purpose of a democracy, is to challenge, to interrogate, and to do it in a thoughtful and constructive way through the systems that we have. But we cannot have executives in office arbitrarily determining what is or what is not legal, nor can we have a judiciary that refuses to prosecute any illegal actions that are being taken, whether it's from the White House or for any other state level leaders. We have to be a country of laws. We have to uphold our values, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here in Virginia.
Absolutely. Madam Lieutenant Governor, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I want to talk about two fights you've really leaned into with regard to redistricting, as well as the situation with Dominion. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi of the great state of Virginia, and we'll be right back. Guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi of Virginia. She is the 43rd Lieutenant Governor of that great state, and as she knows, it's one of my favorites. Just I'm biased because I have family there in the D.C. metropolitan area, so it's always great to have you on. And I told my sister, I said, guess who I got a chance to talk to? And she's like, yeah, I heard. I listened to the show. I saw you had posted on social media. So, but yeah, I'm really. This sounds. I hope it sounds as well as I mean it to sound. We're just so proud of what our new leaders are doing. You are one of those folks. You came in, as we said at the beginning of the segment, and you got right to work, and you realized some very important topics that had to be dealt with. And one of them is redistricting. One of them is making sure that that every person that's able to vote and eligible to vote can vote, and that their vote matters and it counts. And we were cheering, very, very excited that back in was it late March, early April, that good things happened. And then, we had these, I don't know, partisan folks decide that they were going to change the rules. Talk to us a little bit about the redistricting, the vote, and what's happened since then, and kind of what our direction should be.
Sure. Yes. Virginia's effort to redistrict mid-decade was not happening in a vacuum, as you know. It was the consequence of some of the very egregious actions, that very deliberate gerrymandering that Donald Trump ordered other states to do, Texas and Florida, Georgia, Alabama. We were seeing all of these efforts to really stack Congress in favor of Donald Trump, in favor of Republicans in these midterm elections. And so as a consequence of what was happening nationally, Virginia had a responsibility to ensure that we are fighting back, that we're protecting not just Virginians, but also our country. Our country is literally at stake as the consequence of these actions. And so we followed what by law is required for us to do, unlike some other states where executives have single-handedly ordered districts to be redrawn. We followed through on a constitutional referendum. The General Assembly passed it. We had an intervening election. The General Assembly passed it again immediately as we came back into session in 2026. And then we put it in front of Virginia voters. I think that's the piece that gets lost a lot of times, is that we followed the process. We did not make single-handed determinations. Virginia voters made the decision. Virginia voters voted overwhelmingly to support the redistricting effort. And so as a consequence, we followed the process as outlined in the Virginia Constitution. Now, what happened subsequent to that vote is a ruling from the Virginia Supreme Court that it was a split decision. It wasn't a unanimous decision. It was a split decision, 4-3, that basically nullified the votes of millions of Virginia voters. And so that was immensely disappointing, of course. But we fought, we won. And then, 4 justices on the Virginia Supreme Court basically made the decision that overrode the votes of Virginians. But we're not, we're not deflated. We're not defeated. We've got midterms coming right in front of us in just a few months, and we have exceptional candidates. So I am confident that as our candidates get out and tell voters what they're fighting for, who they're fighting for, the issues that they stand on, I think we're going to be successful in making sure that we not only win and retain our incumbent seats, but that we flip at least 2, if not 3, of our districts. And I'm certainly going to be very much a part of that fight as we go forward, making sure our candidates get all the support, all the resources that they need.
So, Madam Lieutenant Governor, so a 4-3 decision, which I paid close attention to, is it? I guess the word recourse is really probably not the right word, but maybe next steps, as you just described, are probably our most effective tool to be able to redirect this and get it on the track with what the voters wanted, because that. For me, and I think for millions of people throughout the country, the voters made a determination that this is what they want. And then, 4 individuals said no to that. But how will we go forward to make sure that they don't have the opportunity to say no again?
It's a delicate balance always in government, isn't it? You've got the 3 branches: legislative, executive, judiciary. I have immense respect for the structure of our constitutional systems, whether it's in Virginia or throughout the country. I have tremendous respect for our judiciary. We need to demand that all of our branches, all of our leaders are accountable to the rule of law, to ensuring that we are upholding our values. So as we go forward, having the opportunity to determine how we, craft a strong judiciary, making sure that the people sitting on our benches all across are reflective of the communities and the people that they serve, but also that they are true to the values that are in our Constitution. So that is something, in Virginia, the legislature appoints our judiciary from the local all the way through the Supreme Court. And so it's important that we work in strong collaboration to put in individuals who are going to be aligned with the Constitution, in its interpretation, and willing to stand up in tough times and do the right thing in tough situations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have another big issue that's affecting all of us throughout the country, and it's birthright citizenship, and how the U.S. Supreme Court came down in a split decision, essentially, which should have been a 9-0 decision, but that it is where we are. Give us your thoughts there, and what are some of the things that you may have heard from folks that are part of the administration and other people that are citizens and other folks that you've talked to in Virginia since that decision?
Yeah, I think the most important group here are our citizens, people who express such concern, such vulnerability about their situation, their family situation. And it is terribly ironic that Clarence Thomas, of all people, was one of those dissenting votes. But, birthright citizenship is something that is so much a part of our American identity, and it is a factor that makes us great. Excuse me, and being able to ensure and protect that individuals that are born in this country know that they have every right as American citizens, that they are in fact American, is so important. I'm so glad that we were able to uphold this critical cornerstone of our democracy. But to begin chipping away, as we see this administration doing, it's birthright citizenship, it's citizens who are naturalized. Ultimately, it's going to be citizens themselves. This is the direction of any authoritarian regime, is to cast aspersions and then to target and go after political enemies. We know that this is all driven by a political bias rather than any kind of meaningful interpretation of constitutional law.
Without a doubt. So as we wrap up, give us a little bit of sort of insight into your goals and aspirations for the rest of this year as you come up on the, kind of the first full year as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, I'm so excited by some of the initiatives that we have launched through the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. In Virginia, Lieutenant Governor sadly is meant to be a part-time position. It is not meant to be an active role, but the way I look at it, that just frees me up. I can make it into whatever I want it to be. And so we have initiated 3 new actions, which I'm excited. I mentioned Virginia's Voices. This is an opportunity to create an infrastructure for civic engagement, civic participation, and I am building the structure for that over these next few months. Aligned right beside Virginia's Voices is my initiative on literature and government. My background is as a professor of literature, and so we are on a lecture tour across Virginia when school's in session. So this fall, I'll be visiting some of our colleges and universities and looking at what's happening in government and in policy decisions through the lens of literature. So very excited about that. And then finally, we've also just getting ready to announce a poetry competition for school children, for K through 12, helping our young people integrate language and love of language into their personal expression, and looking at Virginia through poetry, and just hoping to ignite young people in their conversations about what it means to be a Virginian, but also what it means to be excited about books and literature and poetry.
Wow. Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, the 43rd Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Virginia, thank you again for being with us. It's always a pleasure. We always get excited and enjoy you being part of our show. So thanks for taking time to hang out with us this morning.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Great to talk to you.
You too. Have a great day and a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, I guess it's break time. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 here in Chicago. And our friends down in North Carolina, WARR, 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. And also our friends in Minneapolis and Minnesota, the voice of Minnesota, which is a progressive voice, also known as AM 950. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be hanging out with our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast. We'll be right back.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Chu's Views.
All right, guys, welcome back to Chew's Views. If you are just tuning in, I am Richard Chew. Thanks for being with us this morning. And thanks to Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi. Yeah, so what if I get a little fan guyish about her? She's a real deal, y'all. I mean, we should give her flowers and the hard work. Immigrant woman, she's doing her thing. That's what we have to do as progressive liberal Democrats. We have to be excited about our leaders that are getting it done, because they catch enough hell. So if we can't be excited about it and show them that, because I think part of what we can do, and I know this may sound a little corny, but it's me, so I'm just being myself, is show people who are getting things done that we're excited about them and what they're doing. That helps them feel good. Like, okay, yeah, the people that I'm working to do stuff for, whether it's a dude in Chicago or someone right down the street in the state capitol, when we show them that love, they feel that they're human beings just like us, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to stay in the fight. I say all that to say, good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Richard. Hello,
But
everybody out there.
We have to fanboy and fangirl on the people that are doing the work on our team. I think if we don't do that, well, let me speak to the positive. When we do that, it encourages them, and it encourages more good results from them.
Absolutely.
Call me crazy.
Yeah, and when we do that, when we give them that positive feedback, then they know that's the only way they hear from their constituents. That's the only way that they know that they're doing what people want them to do. I say this all the time to people. It is not enough to just vote. You have to reach out and let your legislators know when you want them to do better, and you need to let them know when you're happy and with what they're doing. Because if you look at it, it's like, every 2 years we elect representatives, every 6 years we elect senators. How are they going to know in between? We have to be engaged.
And stay on them in a positive way.
That's
in a
right.
way that's constructive, that moves things forward. So in any event, that's kind of I needed to say that about Lieutenant Governor Hashmi, because she's getting the work done, and it's Governor Spanberger. So
good on Virginia.
Good on Virginia, absolutely. Good on Illinois too.
My goodness.
Our governor signed a bill that says, hey, we're going to get this money right and do right, and our legislatures help to get things done.
Our Democratic legislature.
Our Democratic. We have to be, yes, Karen, you're right. We have to be definitive.
Clear.
Because when we say Congress, no, Republicans in Congress.
That's
When
right.
we say Supreme Court, no, the 6 knuckleheads. And keep that.
Because we have, Texas, we have a Democratic legislature here, and we're getting it done for the people.
Did you hear that, Greg Abbott? You're walking around with your dumbass cowboy hat on. And that's not saying that cowboy hats are dumb, but he wearing one
All
is.
hat, no cattle is what they say down there, I think.
Don't get me started on. See, you are bad. Karen, first of all, kudos on yet another great Substack article in Resistance Journal. Where are the Republicans? Where you at, y'all?
Yeah.
I said earlier, it is not us.
Right.
We're not taking on these bags of potatoes of weight.
No.
We are not apologizing in advance anymore. Y'all Republicans are the ones that have got things mucked up.
That's right. You all Republicans are the ones that are not checking your boy in the White House and making sure that he doesn't do things that are going to directly affect Americans in their everyday lives. This whole situation, him running around acting the fool, all over the world with NATO, the things he was saying there, the Iran situation.
Karen, did he actually say something around the fact that basically I'm the number one, I'm going to be gone too because I'm their number one target? And then flying on a jet that is not safe for the quote unquote most influential leader in the world, the president of the United States. You heard about the 2 different jets? One of them is superb. Yes, it can sustain a lot. By the time our military jets got there, if Air Force One were under attack, whoever attacked would be done. That's how badass Air Force One is designed to be. Whether it's whomever our president is, we don't want to see our president have to go through that. Then we got the janky model.
Yeah. And this is the one that he was gifted, right? This is the Qatari one.
This is the Qatari one.
Yeah. And so how many millions of dollars are we going to have to pay to get that up?
I heard it's already been $400 million.
Yeah, $400 million, yeah.
I could be wrong,
I mean,
but it shouldn't be $1.
Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. Hey, Elon, knock, knock, knock. Where are you?
Doing some probably trying to figure out some sources of ketamine.
Yeah. Or how many children he can starve.
Yeah, or have by multiple women. Mm-hmm. Hey, all the religious right, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Karen and I were out. Snark City. But to that end about the praising our candidates as well as our elected officials, I know that we'll hit this before we go to break, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the things that we're working toward. But this situation in Maine is one that is a disaster, but it's one that can be fixed if we just focus on the fact that the person that's been in that Senate seat is the real problem. Yes. And, you know, I hear people saying, you know, we're not Maine voters. You know, it is up to the Maine voters. It is up to the Democratic Party in Maine, and they are going to get it done. And I trust them. I think that they understand the assignment. I believe that wholeheartedly. But I will say this, that, you know, Susan Collins, yes, she represents Maine, but her action to vote to install Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court justice, despite the credible and what about all the stuff that that Trump's FBI didn't let come forward with Ms. Ford? Sorry, Dr. Ford. Absolutely. So that they were going to do their investigation, which they never did an investigation. And so now here we are very much in Illinois. Women in Texas, women in Georgia are very much affected by the representative in Maine and her vote. And so when I say dotted line, and I know you've heard me say this, we've talked about this in private, the dotted line right now has never been more important, because one senator who could have had more influence in blocking a Supreme Court nominee to the court didn't do that. And that's affected millions of women throughout the country. So, Maine, we love you, we embrace you, and we want to help you do the right thing. But, yeah, we got a little bit of a say in this one. Yeah. Because y'all got to get this right. Yeah. I mean, just no disrespect to Maine at all. Yeah, no, we're watching. I mean, and just as, you know, look. We would want, and by the way, we would want Maine to do the same thing to us here in Illinois. Absolutely. If we're being right about being progressive liberal Democrats. That's right. And I mean, you know, we can look to I just imagined when President Biden and Kamala Harris were elected in that, you know, every week SNL would open with Kamala Harris banging the gavel, you know, because I thought she's just going to be the tiebreaker, right? Yeah. But then, of course, the unforeseen was Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, West Virginia and Arizona. Well, except for the fact that their actions directly affected millions of Americans throughout the country. Yep. And so this is where I guess the point that we want to make here is that it's interconnected, y'all. It really is. And our responsibility is to be plugged in, to pay attention, to do what Karen said earlier, and that's be involved. Make sure your legislators on a state level, on a local, state, and federal level know you are there. I'm watching you. Yeah. We have to. And I think that's part of where we are right now. And again, I go back to something that I've said all along about the state races, the state elections, and the results and the comments that I've gotten from people that I've been fortunate to interview have said a version of, yeah, we're listening to what the voters are saying in terms of the state election. So I'm hoping that little bit of groundswell is going to continue when it comes to some of the federal folks. But Maine, y'all got to get this right. Karen and I and many others have a belief that you will. In Michigan, we're watching you too. And in Michigan, we're watching you too, because that's another one that let's take a quick moment to talk about that before we go to the break. But what are your quick observations about Michigan? I know it's a lot that's going on there, but what are you seeing? What are you thinking? What are you hoping? Well, I was listening to your show when Kurt Mullet was on, and I agree with him 100%. You know, good on Mallory McMorrow. I believe that she probably did it because somebody needed to step down. Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that and look, this is the number one reason people need to understand. We need to elect Democrats at such levels that we can overturn Citizens United, so that we can get campaign finance reform, so that organizations like AIPAC can't funnel money through these other organizations.
Right. Okay. It's the dark money
we need. Yeah, we need transparency. We need dark money out of our judiciary. We need dark money out of our elections.
Yeah, without a doubt. Let's go to a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950. The progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm hanging out with my good friend Karen Byrne. You all know her as Karen from Chicago, and we will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. I'm Richard Chu. If you're just tuning in to the show, hanging out with our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast, and you got to check out her Resistance Journal at Substack. Not only does she write great articles, but she also has a really cool conversation with her good friend Anita down in San Antonio, Texas, and they chop it up pretty well. So always check it out, what she's doing. Karen, during the break we were talking about the effectiveness of staying involved and staying engaged with the people that are elected, those that are running, what our people are doing. I think the other part of this, at least kind of as I think about this sometimes, is when our officials are doing the work and they're getting things done. This time around, I want them to talk about it.
Yes,
I want them to brag about it and let folks know. I kind of my little stream of thinking sometimes is, here's what it is, here's what we're going to do about it, and here's how it's going to impact you.
That's right.
It's a real simple message, but we want them to brag more about the things that they're doing.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and how you see that as part of us being more effective.
It's everything. We talk about democratic messaging and how Democrats need to do more. That's a part of the messaging. It is selling to the American people what you want to do. And look, there is a segment of this country that they're not going to be voting on policy.
Yeah.
They just don't, and we know who they are. They're Trump voters. But we have to reach out to the people that may not be paying attention. And really talking, I think President Biden, could have done a lot more of that. But we also, to be fair, we don't have a media that is built to help push that narrative. They have bent over backwards to do this both sides stuff, fair and balanced, quote unquote. But all you have to do is watch any of these Sunday morning shows to see that it is not fair and balanced and is not equal treatment between the two parties.
Not at all. And to that point, I think that they just want to see that their value and their numbers, if you will, are higher when there's controversy and conflict and chaos.
Right.
And so I caught a glimpse of something yesterday that really kind of reminded me, and it stayed with me. I watched Katie Tur. She had on folks talking about Maine, yesterday's broadcast. And one of the people was this guy, Paul Rickoff. Mm. And the other was Jamie Harrison. Mm-hmm. And
wow, that's a big step for her.
Yeah. So there were two others, and I can't remember because I was so laser focused on what happened and what I saw in her reaction to something. And that was this. And this goes back to the point about the media not necessarily being on the side of moving things forward. Mm. Okay.
Katie Tur.
Yeah. So the question was what Maine needs to do. And that's a broad question, but what Maine needs to do, what's the fix going to be, blah, blah, blah. And Paul Rickoff went down the path of the establishment's the problem, and they shouldn't be involved in the decision-making of who the next candidate's going to be, blah, 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 blah. And the Dems dropped the ball in terms of because he calls himself an independent. The Dems dropped the ball in terms of the vetting and so forth. And the vetting was that's true, but it was done by an outside organization.
That's right.
Whatever. Okay. And when he said that, and he talked about how the establishment's the problem, and that this is not going to work for Dems, and there needs to be more independent candidates. And he talked about Angus King, and and so this is what happened. Then Jamie Harrison said his response, which was agreed to some point, but countered with who's the real establishment.
Right.
The establishment, and my belief is that the problem isn't the establishment, it's the old guard. Because as Jamie Harrison said, the establishment of the Democratic Party, the real, the cement of the Democratic Party are black women.
That's it.
And when he said that, Rickoff didn't like that.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he didn't. And so
it puts him in a sticky position, doesn't it?
It does. And so, because he could not counter that black women weren't, but he tried, and Jamie wasn't having it. So what happened was, this is where my point I'm making about corporate media. The two of them, he was in studio and Jamie was remote or whatever on Zoom. They had a little battle for about a minute.
Okay.
And Katie Turse sat back with this, I almost said the S word, this Cheshire cat eating grin on her face, because she knew that was going to be good for ratings. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And it hit me. I was like, I'll be doggone. That's real. It was one of those moments. You guys can pull this up. You guys should actually pull this up, who are listening, and watch yesterday's segment. You can find it. But the point is, to what you said, Karen.
Now, did she let Jamie Harris?
She didn't really cut either of them off, but she played them against each other. That's what she did. And that to me was more telling than cutting either one of them off. She did give each of them room to say what they had to say, and she did kind of say to Paul, let Jamie answer, and she did say to Jamie, wants to let Paul answer. So she did, navigate that. But she wanted to see them go at each other. Yeah, yeah. And that to me was more telling than anything I've seen in a while.
Well, I would bet on Jamie every time in that dogfight. But yeah,
and he did kind of. I mean, he did kind of come out on top of that because he made it clear that it's about finding a credible candidate that's a person that's got the ethics and all that. But at the end of the day, it's about the voters, and he made Paul understand. It's independent. How many? He said, how many senators in the U.S. In the U.S. Senate are independent senators? They either they're either Republican or Democrat. So he kind of swatted it down. But to me, again, it was watching how corporate media wanted the dog fight, the chicken fight, the cat fight, whatever, versus something that was going to be substantive to all the viewers. At least that's how I saw it.
Yeah. Well, and
So they're not. So to Karen's point, they're not here to save the day.
No.
Corporate media is not here. It's us.
It's entertainment.
It's you guys.
Yeah.
It's what you guys that are out there that have the ability to do what Karen has done, which is create a podcast, write on Substack, do all these things that allow you to have access to other people's opinions and share them and do your own thing. That's really where we are right now, or it's a significant part of what we've got to be.
And part of it too, and this is we've got so many amazing independent personalities out there now putting their stuff out on Substack and on YouTube, and of course WCPT. Amazing lineup, and such great information and vital information. And so for everybody that's listening already, we've already got that audience. Now, how do we inspire people then to take the information they get from the independent journalists that are doing the work? Katie Fang is doing it. Don Lemon is doing it. Midas Touch is doing it. Stuff. Everybody on WCPT, Free Speech, they're doing it. So what do we do with that? When we get that information, all that good information, then we start to have conversations, and we urge our audience have the conversations.
Yep, and that lets everybody feel, I believe, like they're part of what's going on.
That's it. Get out of your comfort zones.
Yeah.
Don't be worried about, being the turd in the punch bowl at the party. You know what I mean? That's I don't care. I am over, you don't want to invite me back. Yeah, you don't want to invite me back. You don't have to invite me back, but I'm going to be real. Yeah. I'm going to keep it real.
There's I saw this really interesting. There's a young man who he stops people on the street all over the world, and he takes photographs of them. And this was just one I saw yesterday. He stopped this British black man on the street in London, and they were talking, and he said, "Do you mind if I take a picture of him?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm over myself." And I thought, wow, what a great statement. So yeah, we have to be kind of over ourselves and allow ourselves to speak the truth.
Yep.
And then have the outreach to others.
Yes.
Where they feel comfortable in that space as well. Because I think that's where we're able to then sort of swat back when corporate media doesn't do what they're supposed to do, in our opinion, that it is, to give us the information that people are begging for.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the things why so many people have been turned off by it, frankly.
Right. I mean, and the consequences are what we've been seeing in the last year.
And we don't get it right all the time,
No.
but we're still forcing ourselves to work toward getting it right.
But we try, and when we get it wrong, we admit it. See, and that's the big thing. People know. It's just like, you see it with even Rachel Maddow. When she would get something wrong, she would retract it. She would say something. When does that ever happen on Fox News? That never happens on Fox News, but the real impact, and this is the thing, when people do not pay attention, when we don't have these very important conversations, then somebody like Donald Trump gets reelected. Okay. And that is because a lot of people didn't vote. If we had been talking to those people all along out on the streets, and I'm not, because it's not, if people aren't tuning in, they're not tuning in. But that's where we can come into it as regular citizens, you know, and people who pay attention. That's where we can make a difference. I mean, I am in contact with a young lady who I met at the Broadview Detention Center who had her fiance violently abducted last year. He's been in Mexico for the last year. And I was on the phone with her for an hour listening to what the impact on her and her 3 children was. Yeah. And I'm trying to, on the aside, do some work to get her some assistance so she can do what she needs to do for her family. But
that doesn't happen if we're not communicating and talking to each other.
Exactly, right. And it's just like, and she's just one story. This is happening. And, the gentleman you brought up in Texas, and now they're trying to deport the eyewitness.
Well, here's a crazy thing, and we got to get to this break. But Kate Lincoln Goldfinch and I talked about that yesterday. His son was on MS News yesterday, MS Now rather, talking about what actually happened. So it's because we're communicating. We're going to go to a break right now. I'm fortunate to have kind of the bookend of fantastic voices. The number 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, as well as AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with Amy McDonald. We're going to have some fun talking with her, and Karen's going to be here with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you are just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. I've been hanging out with my good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, and now I'm adding to the conversation some other fun from another brilliant person who's done so much great work with her podcast, with the articles that she's written, and all the rest. She's the host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald, and welcome to the show, Amy. I'm so glad to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I could ask that big, broad question about what's been going on, and I don't want to put too much of Amy's business in the street, but she's been across the globe doing stuff in other countries and reporting and podcasting. But I'm glad that you've kind of landed safely and back and got your feet on the ground. What's it been like to be back, and what have you been working on these last few days?
Well, in some big news, I'm actually jumping on a campaign here in North Carolina to manage a campaign that's a red to blue seat, North Carolina's 10th congressional district with Ashley Bell. Wow. She's the Democratic nominee, beats 5 other people in the primary, and we are going to take this back from the Republicans. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, just been chugging along with The Foolish Optimist. That's where we're interviewing candidates running for office. And then in the content creation space, we are still talking about the overarching themes of the United States and how we can make it better for our next generations. At the end of the day, that's, I think, why we're all here, is to just make life a little bit better for the people who come behind us. And yeah, that's me. That's what we're doing.
Well, before we went to the break and before you came on, Karen and I, as you probably heard, we're talking about the importance of what the other media or other voices are doing. And you are, like Karen, one of those other voices. And we're not part of the corporate media structure. And so we recognize kind of our responsibility is to speak about these things really unapologetically and talk about them in the most cogent way that we can and the most fair way that we can. But to your point, so often when I listen to your podcast and your guests, is to talk about them, because not talking about them, not doing anything, which makes you crazy. Which one of your recent posts, recent articles on Substack. Change is scary, but what else are we going to do, right? So it's just a great title. Talk a little bit about that in the context of we can't just sit on our hands.
I think we're seeing this massive societal issue where people think that change is always negative, and people have a hard time because we haven't had a lot of creative leadership lately. So it is hard for people to envision the fact that change is actually, while it is unknown and that tricks our brains into believing it's a scary process, it could actually be really good. And I do believe right now, this moment in time, in our history and in our country's present, is the opportunity for some big swings. It is scaring the Democratic establishment a lot. These institutional Democrats have come out and said, specifically Tom Suzy.
Swazi.
He's Swazi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't care. He's said,
I thought,
he said
that. I know how you roll. I thought you were about to drop a bomb on us, but.
No, I didn't. No, I've remembered. I'm not allowed to curse on this program. I don't care how his name is pronounced, because he's saying that the Democratic Socialists of America are too far and they're too radical, and then MAGA he also hates, so he's going to take his half out of the middle. And I don't think that the Democratic Party itself recognizes that a lot of people have become unaffiliated or, quote, registered independents because they don't feel at home in the Democratic Party. It's not because they're in the middle. It's because they're the Democratic Party of the 60s, 70s, 80s, pre-Bill Clinton. So, change is really, it's scary to us because of the way our brains are wired. We want to be in this known space.
Yeah.
But in reality, right now in this moment in time, change is happening all around us. Let's be real. That's happening. So we might as well prepare and actually make some decisions as to what we want the future to look like, and then we take action.
Yeah,
the antidote to anxiety is always action.
It's crazy. I talked about this. I've talked about this before, that if you can take action, you don't have a problem that's unsolvable. It may take a lot of action, but if you can take action, then you don't have a problem that's unsolvable. And I try to live by that as best I can. I missed the mark more than I hit it, but at least I'm taking action and trying to figure out how to fix those issues. And that's part of the reason that I said earlier with Governor Hashmi that I was so proud of what they're doing in Virginia. I mean, she and Governor Spanberger, they got to work. I don't expect anybody to agree with everything that they're going to do, left, right, or in the middle, but they got to work. They did not wait, Amy. They said, listen, we're going to get some stuff done. We campaigned on it. We told the voters of Virginia we were going to work toward doing these things, and they went to work, y'all. So it's great.
Well, and people are so shocked by politicians actually getting things done.
And that's
We've lived in a world for so long. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, can I
getting stuff done.
I was just going to say, Mamdani, he's the perfect example, right? I mean, he is somebody who he was campaigning, and you had Cuomo and scaring everybody, and he is getting it done, and people are seeing that yes, we can have these things. I mean, I'm a mother of Gen Zers, of millennials, and they want this, and whatever the label is, Democratic, Socialist, whatever, it's basically FDR Democrats.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Pick up a history book, y'all, if you want to understand how folks did in the past and got things done. Amy, I want to come to you real quickly on something with regard to what Karen was saying about Mandami, Democratic Socialist, the label, wherever we are in the tent. We all have something to do. And I think that one of the challenges right now is that, which I love this challenge, which is there are people who don't know what to do, but to your point, they want to do something. They want to take action. They're just like, they're tired of sitting back and not being able to be part of the solution. And so you've spoken about why that's so important, that everybody feels that they've got something to do and that they're engaged in the process. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, I think something we all do is we decide we're going to do something, and then instead of looking to see what already exists, we're like, we're going to create this thing. And then when you decide you're going to create something, it feels insurmountable. And I have to tell you, there's people all over the country in every single facet of life that are pushing back against this administration, that are helping to get people elected, that are just helping their community. Maybe it's just mutual aid. That's huge, right? Maybe it's helping people get food on the table. And so whatever you personally enjoy doing or whatever you're skilled at, I'd highly suggest you try to find an organization that you can just plug into, right? That's really, really important. And it lowers your barrier to entry so it doesn't feel as insurmountable in your brain. And there are people literally in every corner of this country doing something that you can fit right in with. Again, whether that is helping get food on the tables for Americans, or it is protesting out front of different, Delaney Hall or different ICE detention centers, or maybe you're like me and you like to speak about things and you like to talk. That's really important, right? We need people talking about things all the time. And maybe you're like, I don't want to get on the internet, Amy. I hate that. That doesn't sound great. You just need to talk about it at home. You need to be talking about what's happening at home, in your house, in your communities, at church, wherever you go. If you're talking about it, yes, people might get annoyed. That's okay. It's okay. People don't talk about hard topics, and that's why we're where we are, right? Because we didn't talk about it, because we swept things under the rug, and now these molehills have become mountains, and they're like fracturing our country into pieces.
I'm sitting here just smiling.
Oh my God, my girl, you and I, we could hang out.
And so
Like,
I was.
Should we connect offline?
Yeah,
Definitely.
well, there we go. Because I did what my mother would be like. Boy, what did you didn't introduce them? So, Amy meet Karen, Karen meet Amy. Yeah, there we go. And so.
Hi, Karen.
Hello, Amy. Nice to meet you. We have to talk, girl.
So to that point, though, this is the thing that, if there's anything that I've wanted to accomplish with this show, it's to connect people who I feel in my heart need to be or will be better by being connected. Because I know that those dotted lines turn into solid lines, and then we get stuff done. And so I'm glad that you guys are able to be on. We are able to have you on together on the same broadcast, because now you guys will get to go and do something that's going to be extraordinary, and other people that know and follow you will go, well, damn. This lady in Chicago, and this lady down in North Carolina, they hooked up, and now they're building. So we, as a collective group, get to do that. And guess what, y'all? Nobody can tell us that we can't do it. Because guess what? It's too late. The train has left the station, and we're stopping along the way. We're picking up people. Every time we stop, we're throwing more folks into the train, and we're going to keep moving the thing forward. I believe that in all my heart. So I'm glad that this worked out to have you guys be connected. So there, Karen meet Amy, Amy meet Karen. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, and our good folks at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. I'm hanging out with Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast and Amy McDonald, the Foolish Optimist Podcast. How about that? I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and in studio with us is Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast, and also joining us is our good friend Amy McDonald, who is the host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald's podcast. Thanks to both of you for being with us this morning. And Amy, the thing that I wanted to come back to you on is something that you talked about recently, about the importance of science and neuroscience when it comes to our politicians not doing a better job, but doing a more extensive job of reaching people and connecting with people. Talk a little bit about, kind of what you meant there and how that fits into the narrative right now.
Well, so the thing I talk about the most is that neuroscience of change, right? I've hosted workshops on it. I've hosted big conversations on it across the country because I need people to recognize that, when we're talking about authoritarian regimes, they're leveraging our brains against us, right? They're trying to paralyze us in fear. They're trying to say that everything is set in stone, nothing can be changed, it's too hard, it's too big, you just can't do it. When in reality, what we know is that, we're a year and a half into Donald Trump's second term, a year and a half into Project 2025, and realistically, this is still very much a house of cards situation. They're very fragile, and it's not a place that is set in stone, but they do want you to believe that. So when we talk about this neuroscience of change, we're really talking about how to break people out of this paralysis. And part of it is getting them involved. Part of it is getting them surrounded into community that is not just helping them, but it's helping them see that there are other options. And we have big wins every week, but people aren't hearing about them, right? Because if you're going against the administration, you talked about this earlier with mainstream media, they're having a hard time reporting anything that is a win not in Trump's pile because Trump is on a retribution tour and he is just burning things down as he goes. So we have to make sure that people understand that things are happening and things are moving and the courts are pushing back, individual groups are pushing back, families are being reunited out of these detention centers. We are winning, even though we're still getting slammed every single day. I mean, it does. It feels like the hits just keep coming, but it's also because that's what we see and that's what the algorithms are pushing because they want to be friends with this administration. Whereas,
Wow.
we have to be very vocal about the wins every day so that people's brains are registering, oh, wait, we are making headway. Because we are, truly. I mean, I think the Trump administration is terrified.
Yeah, Karen, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm thinking, right away, to the dopamine hits that he's giving, the remaining group of MAGA every time he talks about the retribution, and he says, I'm going to get retribution for you. That's how he gets them, right? He enlists them in. So now we're a team. We're in this together, right? In reality, these people need to understand it's not retribution for you. He's not doing anything for you. He's doing it for himself. This is his retribution.
Yeah,
right.
Because he didn't he didn't get fed with the right spoon. I had to keep it clean because I was about to say something completely.
His mommy didn't hold him enough.
Stop it.
He didn't get loved on enough as a child. We know that's part of the problem.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, that was so close to going down a crazy. See, this is the thing. This is one of the things that I love about both of you and respect about both of you. And I should put that in the other order: respect and love about you guys. You guys, you do have some restraint because I know what Karen's like off camera, and I know what Amy's like off camera, and sometimes on camera when it comes to making the point.
About that.
No, don't apologize because Karen's got a sledgehammer in her pocketbook just like you do too. So, and that leads me to something that I want to touch on, and it might be here it is. I said earlier in the show that the Republicans are the ones that are at fault right now. Democrats we know we got the work we got to do. We're doing it. And to your point, Amy, we're having these successes. I think part of the ongoing strategy, right now and ongoing strategy for Democrats to win and continue to win is that we cannot spend too much time in the blame lane. We've got to spend more time in tagging Republicans about how awful they have been and how they are either voting for or standing by the sidelines and watching things happen. And case in point, Susan Collins is the worst politician in Maine, not the other folks. It's her record that should be the tag and should be the label and the anchor that gets tied to her feet. We have to do that as part of our messaging right now is keep tagging Republicans. We've got to make sure that it's known that they are the ones. Thoughts there?
Look, I am not jealous of the Maine electorate right now. I don't wish to be in that situation. Honestly, I think if we had, I think my big issue right now with the Democrats and the Republicans on both sides, and you know this, is like, especially Democrats, for some reason, we have a comfortable time excusing racism. If we had read those Reddit threads, and if the majority of Maine people had read the Reddit threads that Graham Plattner had put out, even 10 years ago, right? It's not that long ago. Sorry. It's just not. If they had said, hey, that's enough for me, a Nazi tattoo is enough for me, we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now. But you're right. The Republicans have, they've put the horse in the hospital, and they've let the horse run around the hospital numerous times. And we, as Democrats, struggle, I think, because sometimes we get in our own way. We get in our own way a lot. And we have this conversation about this really big tent, and then we criticize everyone under the tent. And it's like, well, we're very quick and easy and comfortable to listen to people who were Republicans about 5 minutes ago. But the people on the further left, and I say this as someone on the further left, Karen, you mentioned FDR Democrats. My podcast is named after an FDR quote. I have an FDR quote tattooed down the side of my body. Mm-hmm. FDR is my guy, and I've been further left than the current Democratic Party my entire life.
I think a lot of us have.
Born in 1990. I literally stepped out of the womb and was like, workers' rights. Take me to the bar and let's talk about workers' rights. So it's interesting to watch this happen, but I do think the one thing we can give Republicans is that they're good at messaging. And we can learn from them, right? And I think that's a really big issue with me is that we're watching people do this really well, and sure, it's rooted in hatred, but we can flip it and root it in inclusion, and we can root it in, what we're doing well, and actually bring more people into the tent and mobilize more people. But we need to be leading with hope, and we need to be leading with action. And I don't think we're getting any of that out of the big Democratic Party right now.
One of the things that was a comment that I made, and as part of a conversation I had about, who the establishment is versus who the old guard is. There's a big part of the establishment that looks like me and is female. Black women have been those are the successful parts of the establishment. They've been the backbone, and I think we probably need to redefine the criticism, and you guys take this as you can. Maybe we look at the old guard that's creating the block versus who are the actual on the ground people in the Democratic Party that are making it work. Mm-hmm. Because it's the Amy's of the world, it's the Karens of the world, and it's the Richards of the world we are part of the establishment in terms of what we've helped to build. But we're not part of the old guard that's blocking the progress that the party needs. We are, it's a subtle thing, and it might be maybe a little bit too much in the weeds or too nuanced, but we are part of the thing that we built. But we're also willing to say there's things that we need to fix. It's like tuning up your car. You keep driving it down the street. If it's raggedy, it's going to stop running on you. You got to take it in the shop and get it tuned up and fixed and all that. It doesn't mean you get rid of the car. You just get some things tuned up so that it performs the way that you'd like it to be and, do the things you want it to do. So that's kind of how I see where we are, is that being willing to accept that there's some repairs that need to be made doesn't mean you get rid of the car, but you make those repairs and then you keep going down the road and you add some people to the train along the way.
I think we have to come together with what are the things that we all agree upon in the party. And I think that the differences are being amplified and pushed out on social media. And I think there's a lot of money out there to try and, pit us against one another. Yeah. When really the core principles, we share all of those, those ideals and ideas. And, I look at it as the establishment, like you said, Richard, is, black women are the backbone and the heart of this party. People like Chuck Schumer, I think he needs to get out of our way.
He's part of the old guard.
He's the old guard.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Amy? The old guard is really where we have the challenge.
No, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, you're part of a younger chronological generation. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was about to say, I think I'm lagging a tiny bit, but I'm with you on that in terms of old guard versus establishment. And I do think that this is one of these things that has tripped us up a lot, as do labels in general on the left. And I think that's like people argue with me all the time about labels, and I'm like, I don't really care about the label. I think, again, we talk about this big tent and we need people in the big tent, but I do think the big difference is who's prepped and ready to adjust with the current times and who is still, like you said, old guard, living in 2009, 2016. There is a chunk of Democrats who are acting like it's 10 years ago. And then there's the new generation. And you're right, it is establishment Dems still who are adjusting on the fly. They're changing how they're talking to people. They're changing how they're getting people to take action. And I do applaud them, and I think it is really important to make that distinction. I think
and I think the big tent too for me is a longtime Democrat and somebody who has paid attention to politics, making the tent larger, bringing people like Joe Walsh, and I'm just going to say it, that's not my idea of moving ahead with our party, okay?
Yeah.
Because sorry, Joe,
No,
but you need to go and sit down and do your thing and
Joe
talk to your
Walsh
people and clean it up.
He's a good dude, but his voice should not be bigger than a younger, progressive, energized, democratic woman who's like, hey, wait a minute, you created a thing that caused me to ultimately get to a point where I lost some of my human rights.
We've been on the right side of everything for how long? And then these guys want to come in and try and tell us, like, let me in.
Hold on a second.
It's like, no.
Amy, you're going to love this one. You know what that's a real sign of? It's white male privilege in America.
Dude, it's Joe Walsh. The amount of times in just the last 7 days, I've been like, if Joe Walsh would just shut up,
thank you,
things would be better. Because who else needs
to shut up that's doing kind of the same thing, that's quote unquote on our side, if you will, by the letter, is Rahm Emanuel.
Oh, come on,
Ron, dude. Just go sit down.
He can't. Here's the thing. I've heard that he's going to try and run in 2028.
He's definitely running.
But he's never going to win the primary here in Chicago. Are you kidding me?
I'm tagging him with LaQuan McDonald every single day. If he puts his hat in the ring, I'm tagging him with
absolutely
with LaQuan McDonald.
He will never win in Illinois. He won't.
So as we wrap up, guys, and this is obviously something we're going to do again sooner than later, right, Amy and right, Karen? But listen, y'all, that's the thing. Circling back to where we started as we wrap up, get active. Take Amy's advice. Change is, it's scary, maybe, but put yourself in a position where, something new can happen and you can impact some people in a different way in the space that we're in right now. Amy McDonald is the host of The Foolish Optimist, and it's a joy to have you back on. I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Karen Byrne is one of the hosts of True Blue Politics podcast, and it's always great to have Karen in. And you know who I am. But thanks to everybody this week. We've had some wonderful guests, and I really appreciate and humbled by the folks that carve out a little bit of time in their day so we can talk. And hopefully you guys as listeners have been able to take some good stuff away from all the guests that we've had with us today. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And as I always say, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.